Paranormal activities experiences. First paranormal activity. Deadbolt locking on its own when no one is home. Hello, I'm a teenage Texan girl. Recently I bought some things from the thrift store. One of the items in particular is a music box that plays Hark, the Herald Angel Sings. This box will disappear and reappear at random. One of the creepy things is it can still play, even if the switch is on off. And then, the deadbolt on the front door locks on its own, even when my whole family is out. My mom suspected an intruder, but nothing was touched. I have been feeling random touches on my body sometimes, but that could just be me. Second paranormal activity. I didn't know Hat Man was a thing until last month. I'm a 33 female and have never seen anything weird in my life until this happened. I was at home doing chores on a Saturday afternoon, laundry specifically. Husband was out doing errands, and I had The Good Place playing on the TV. I had just walked through the living room from the kitchen with a load of clean laundry and into the bedroom, where I sat the hamper down next to the bed and began folding clothes. I could see the television directly from the spot I was standing as I was still following along with the show. As I'm standing there I see a dark shadow lean down in front of the television from the right side of the screen. It turns its head inquisitively towards me. That's the impression I got from it anyway, and it just stares at me. I stared right back. It had no facial features or legs, but was clearly wearing a fedora and a goddamn suit. I was more startled than afraid. It honestly seemed more curious than aggressive, and I didn't really know what to do but stare back. I eventually blinked, and he was just gone. I finished folding the laundry and was admittedly shaking a little. I went into the living room, grabbed the PS controller and rewound to the exact part of the show that it occurred. I thought there had to be an explanation, so I rewound and played the scene. It was the flying episode and the scene was when Michael was sitting at a table with Tahani and Jason, right before kicking the dog. I rewound and watched that scene from every angle of the living room, but couldn't find anything that looked like a shadow. Did some research on it and ended up on Reddit, just now deciding to share because it's been on my mind and I don't think anyone I know would believe me. They would probably humor me to be nice, but I don't want to seem crazy. It was real, and it's obviously a pretty universal thing, so bizarre. Third paranormal activity. I've been living with my daughter, 2, and boyfriend for a little over a month. For the month we've been living here, everything has been great, until last night. I put my daughter to bed around 8 PM. My boyfriend and I went out in the living room to watch TV. Around 11 PM we hear a baby cry. I run in the room and find my daughter sleeping. I thought it was weird, but dismissed the cry. Not even 5 minutes later, we hear a very loud cry and something say mommy. It didn't sound like my daughter very much, but what else would it have been? I run in there. I find my daughter sitting up. She looks at me with a terrifying face. She points up and says baby with a shaky voice. I look at the ceiling fan where she was looking. Light and fan were off. I see a very weird light and the background was pitch black. I grab my daughter and run out hyperventilating. The only thing I could say was ghost. My daughter immediately starts to talk about the baby she saw. She was pointing in our room, saying baby and some other things we couldn't understand. She had a very shaken up voice and looked in shock and very scared. We bring our friend over who brings my daughter in the room. My daughter says the baby is gone now. We decided to leave for the night. My boyfriend had to fix my daughter's car seat. As we were waiting I felt something looking at me. I look at the window and thought I saw a figure, but I dismissed it thinking it was my mind. My daughter must have saw it too because she looks right after me and starts freaking out really bad. After that I knew we both saw something. We had to come back and we are terrified. I'm scared for our safety. Fourth paranormal activity. As a kid I've always felt slightly spooked about my parents' house. My great aunt, dad's side, lived there before us with my then teen dad. My parents and I moved in when I was 2 and I'm 23 now. I've always gotten weird vibes in the house, especially this one corner in between the living room / back den. I spoke with my great aunt, who is very in tune with her spiritual and has told me before that she has seen both angels and demons. Tells me that in that one time in the 90s she walked into the living room and was stopped in her tracks because of a tall shadowy figure standing there in that exact corner staring at her. This was before I told anyone about the weird feeling that corner gave me. Next, I can remember the very first time I experienced sleep paralysis. I was in the 4th grade and I couldn't sleep one night. I remember feeling wide awake and I was staring at the nightlight plugged into the wall by my sister's bed. Suddenly it felt like everything was in slow motion. When I looked up, a black figure was walking slowly towards my bed. You know how in cartoons, when someone gets kidnapped they'd get thrown in a giant sack? This figure was holding a sack, and I honestly thought I was being kidnapped. I tried to scream but I couldn't, and my body was frozen. I couldn't even move my fingers, and the fear began to set in. As it approached my bed it opened the sack slowly, as if it was going to put it over my head. It reached my bed, and it felt like I simultaneously blacked out and woke up at the same time. Years later in high school, I had a boyfriend. We had fallen asleep on the phone the night prior, and I had woken up around dusk and the call was still connected. My room was lit up a strange blue, that weird the sun is rising, but it's not over the horizon yet blue, so it was still kind of dark. I guess I had dozed back off and woke up again to a giant black shadow figure standing directly over me, looking down at me. In a way, it looked like my dad, so I thought it was him at first. For context, my dad is 6'1" and bald. Not skinny or scrawny at all. He also has always worked weird factory shift hours, so on his way out to go to work at 5 AM part of his routine would be to pop in my sister and I's room and check on us, making sure we were sleeping soundly and all. This shadowy figure looked like my dad's silhouette, but I quickly realized it wasn't him. I remember thinking to myself that I could outsmart it and move my body by trying with all my strength. I strained to move my arms and legs and failed. While still standing over and looking down at me, this thing chuckles to itself, as if it could hear me thinking or feel me trying and failing. It was a smug, condescending, foolish girl kind of chuckle. It turned and walked right out of my bedroom door. I woke up to my boyfriend on the line saying he could hear me breathing really heavily while I slept on the other side, like I was exhausted or something. Literally a week after that I was sleeping in my mom's bed one morning. Not sure why, I must have been on break from school or something. It was really sunny this morning, and I remember waking up unable to move, but I could of course still see. The sun was beaming in through the windows. My mom's room is yellow so everything actually looked very beautiful. But I realized I couldn't move or speak. I see a super tall shadowy figure slowly creeping its way through the room towards me. I had no choice but to watch while it crept closer to me, but as it made its way around the BD towards me, I started feeling vibrations. It was like both the bed and my body were vibrating. I heard the voice of an old woman yell, "You shall not pass." And once again, I blacked out / woke up. Later on in high school my sister and I were playing around on one of those ghost radar apps. We had binge watched a few ghost movies that day, so we were in the mood for some spooky stuff I guess. The app looks like a standard radar, projecting different color dots based on the energy levels of the spirits the phone allegedly detects. The app would also generate words both audibly and on the screen, claiming that spirits were able to communicate through the phone and would generate the words from a database. While I believe in the paranormal, I was always about the app. It was fun and fed my long-standing paranormal fascination, so I didn't mind. We were standing in the living room using the app, listening to it generate random dots and words. It projects a red dot in the center of the back den, and red meant it was stronger in energy. My sister and I giggled at the dot standing in the middle of the room in the dark. We could see through the doorway and the lights were off in there. Then the phone generates / says the word fight. My sister and I start playfully antagonizing it, saying things like, "What, you wanna fight? I'll beat you up." The next part still gets me. The phone says run, and we hear a crash in the den. We booked it right out of there and ran straight to our room and avoided the den for the rest of the night. Again, for more context, my parents have a stack of those wooden foldable dinner tray tables tucked behind the back of the couch and the door, which slides. The crash sounded like the sound of the trays falling, but when we peeked into the den later they were still positioned as normal. Weirdly enough, the last time I had sleep paralysis was college in my freshman year dorm, but I didn't see anything, I just couldn't move. Most recently, like 2 months ago, I was woken up out of my sleep by the sound of my ears ringing. Not even ringing though, it honestly sounded more like TV static. It woke me up and wouldn't go away. For about 2 hours I was freaking out because the sound was so loud and it was in my ears or head, I guess, and nothing helped. I was literally up at like 7 AM on a Saturday walking around my apartment trying to make it stop. Eventually it kind of faded and I was able to go back to sleep. My friend said maybe something was trying to contact me, but IDK it was super bizarre and hasn't happened since. I also want to note that I no longer live with my parents and live in TX now. This happened in my apartment.